All right, League, what's going on? It is week 15. It is time for the playoffs. So, everybody, I know y'all are excited. I know I am. We got playoff round one getting ready to get started. I know everybody's wanting to see who the big winners are going to be. We already had the bracket put out earlier this week. So, without further ado, we'll jump right into it. And actually, I'm going to try to let me see if I can actually pull this off where it allows me to I don't want to stop that. I need to be able to look at both. I'm doing it from a remote location. There we go. I'm going to share my screen and I'm just going to pull up the website. So let me see where I could share. No, it's not going to work. All right, it's not going to work. So I'll have to try it a different way, guys. All right. So nonetheless, we have a bunch of great games coming up this week. Bunch of big time matchups. The playoffs, of course, are um, always heated up. So, without further ado, we'll get into it. I did want to talk a little bit about Pick'em. So let me get out of this, and y'all have to bear with me a little bit. I didn't prepare that well in terms of how my screen will work with me, but here we go. So the first thing I want to cover is we have in Pick'em. Just real quick, let me get to that to tell everybody where. So we still have. Oh, Pick'em is not on the home screen. All right, this is going off great. So Pick'em's not on the home screen, but nonetheless, let's get to the matchup. So I'll cover Pick'em in the group chat. So of course, everybody know how the seeds are broken down. We have the toilet bowl, we have the big boy playoffs. With toilet bowl matchups, you have coming off in the first round in the toilet bowl, you have the number one toilet bowler in the Fire Dogs versus the GOAT. You have Laugh Now versus Action J with the 4 and the 5 matchup. You have Bulldogs who's the 2 seed versus Swagner. You got Infantry Warrior versus Huckleberry. That rounds out your toilet bowl teams. With the toilet bowl, the way I'm looking at it right now, I'm gonna project Fire Dogs over GOAT. Laugh Now, I'm gonna project him to lose to Action J. Bulldogs, I'm gonna take him to beat Swagner, and then I'm gonna take Infantry Warrior over Huckleberry. So that pretty much goes over the toilet bowl bracket. But let's really get to the big boy bracket, the bracket that we all want to talk about, the one that everybody wants to know about. You got the number one seed, King of the Gridiron. He's been holding down that number one seed for I feel like a month or so. Pretty much had it wrapped up. He finished with an 11-3 record. Baker King slid in, got that 8 playoff spot. He held it down, but he's coming in a little wounded. Justin Herbert not being there. We'll see who he puts in for his lineup for quarterback this week. We'll get a chance to talk about that. But then you got the 4 and the 5 matchup. Dark Knight ended up still winning that division. Surprisingly, he won the division. Him and STL, that final game of the season. So Dark Knight winning the division. He gets to take on the better team. The better team actually has a better record in going in this game, and he's at the 5th seed. Then down on the other side of the bracket, you got the number 2 Big Wolf. Talked about him somewhat wrapping up the number 2 seed. He's able to get that done. And then you have the G-Men as the number 7 seed, probably one of the best 7 seeds we've had in a few years. Number 3 seed is Rob, winner of his division. And then you got the number 6 seed, STL. So that rounds out the top of the bracket, the top of everything. And so we'll get to these matchups and see how these games will pan out. We've already had some. I mean, if you got a chance to start any of those guys last night, unfortunately, I don't think any of the playoff teams had anybody that really mattered. If they did, they were guys who weren't playing, like we talked about with Baker King, who didn't have his quarterback. The G-Man didn't have Josh Jacobs playing last night. Big Wolf didn't have Keenan Allen. So a lot of people didn't start Trey Tucker or Michael Mayer or Devontae Adams or O'Connell or Josh Palmer, anybody who put up significant points last night. I don't think they were on any of the big playoff teams. But we can look at the number 1 seed, 11-3 versus Baker King, 7-7. He's going with Mitchell Trubisky. that's not a great quarterback to have to rely on. You got Jerome Ford, Keaton Mitchell, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Jayden Reed. Baker King is going to be a tough team to tangle with. Let's just face it. Baker King, his team can put up big points. His team with the 49ers defense going up against the Arizona Cardinals. We know those divisional games are usually less appealing, and they can have both defenses can play well. So on the flip side of it, you got King of the Gridiron. He's got Dak Prescott. We know what he's been doing. Ezekiel Elliott is now the number one running back for the Patriots and looking like the old Zeke. DeAndre Swift has a good matchup against the Seahawks. Jordan Addison, we'll see what happens with the new quarterback. Odell Beckham looks like the Odell of old. Ferguson and Dalton Kincaid, those are two great tight ends to play, and we know tight ends, the premium that they share with us. Cameron Dicker played last night, and he got 3 extra points. So at least he got some points from his kicker. And then the Falcons played the Carolina Panthers, and I think the Falcons defense can do exactly what the 49ers defense can do. So at the end of the day, you got a great team that had a great regular season, a really good team that limped into the playoffs really at the end of the season, and really is due to injuries that they're not the same squad. And in order for CeeDee Lamb to get off, it's going to take Dak to do it. So I'm picking Baker King. I'm not Baker. There's 2 kings in this game, but King of the Gridiron is the one who should take the victory. Right now, the system is giving him a 79% chance of victory, and I'm going to go with that. I'm leaning on that, and I think King of the Gridiron gets on to the second round. The next game we're going to go to is the 2 versus the 7 seed. So 2 versus 7, you have the Big Wolf who finished at 10-4, the G-Man who finished at 8-6. Lamar, and this game was played last week. So we saw a lot of these same players against one another. Maybe the only difference is the Josh Jacobs and Keenan Allen aspects that were taken out of both lineups. Oh, Nico Collins was also taken out, but he put Jahan Dotson back in, and I think he can get the same kind of performance that Nico Collins can do, because Jahan Dotson, he can just blow up in any moment. So Eagles defense versus the Seahawks, I think they're in a good spot. The Ravens versus the Jaguars, they're in a good spot. But due to my affiliation with the Big Wolf organization, I can't take a pick in that game. So good luck to both teams. Good luck, Wolf. Rooting for you. Who's your daddy? Or robbed one time versus 4-time champ STL. You got 9-5 versus 8-6. And if you had asked me when Joe Burrow went down, what was that, some 4 or 5 weeks ago, I would have told you that Rob would not be in the playoffs. He wouldn't have had a chance to win his division, and the season was pretty much over for him. But Jake Browning has come in, and he's done excellent. I think he's beat everybody's expectations, especially Rob's, because he's continued to bank on him in the playoffs. Kenneth Walker's doing well. DeAndre Hopkins is doing well. DJ Moore showed up on the injury report this week, but I think he's good to go. Adam Thielen, I don't know how much you can trust him. The Carolina Panthers, you really can't trust the rookie quarterback. And the Atlanta Falcons defense, I think, are going to be all right. So Travis Kelce and Laporta, though, he's been rolling with those 2 tight ends all season. And then the Dolphins defense are getting the Jets. We'll see if they score 103 points like they did the last time. I don't think they'll have that big of a game. And I think the Jets they want to recover from that game. They were a bit embarrassed, and I think they got a chip on their shoulder to come in. On the flip side, STL, he's rolling with Gardner Minshew this week. So he's rolling with Gardner Minshew. I don't blame him. You can score points on the Pittsburgh Steelers, which we saw that last week with Bailey Zappi. Devon Achane, if he plays, you can get 40 points from him. Christian McCaffrey, I think we know what we can get from him. Brandon Cooks and Tyreek, another guy. Tyreek plays, you know what you can get from him. They keep talking about Achane and Hill being questionable. If you ask me, I think they play. And Njoku and Darren Waller. STL's getting Waller back, and he's putting him out there. It's playoffs. Put your guys in. Start your studs. All that goes into play. The only thing I would say is that they are playing the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints can be a tough defense. They can get after the quarterback, and if things go sideways, it could go sideways quickly, and you could end up with not a lot of points there. But again, who else are you going to go to at that point? And then the Tennessee Titans pick up. The Tennessee Titans versus Houston Texans, especially this week, without C.J. Stroud, without Nico Collins. I don't know who they got at running back, but at the end of the day, I think the Houston Texans are probably one of the top 3, maybe top 5 defenses, but I'd say even top 3 defenses to play this week. I think they can hang with the Dolphins. This is a tough game to pick. It's a really tough game to pick just because the quarterbacks almost balance each other out. The running backs, I lean towards STL. The receivers, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins has been doing awesome, and I think against the Texans, he's going to have a he's. I mean, that's a revenge game in a sense. So he's going to want to play well there. And Will Levis has shown that he's not afraid to chunk it down the field and get it to him. So I think when you look at Hopkins and DJ Moore aspect of it, I lean towards Rob. I definitely lean towards Rob with the tight end. So this game, it's almost a pick 'em for me. But I'm going to go on a limb. I'm going to go out here I'm going to say that Cincinnati, with what they could do, Pittsburgh might be able to slow Gardner Minshew down. And so I'm going to say that between those quarterbacks, I'm going to say Browning does better than Minshew. I think the defenses can cancel each other out. I'm going to go with Rob to win this game. So Rob wins this game. Then the final game in the playoffs, you have Dark Knight, who's 8-6, versus the better team, who's 8-6. Another game, you got the heavyweights and quarterbacks going up against each other. Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen. You got Singletary on the other side. Not too worried about him. Brees Hall and David Montgomery. Probably two guys who can definitely score 25 this week, maybe even go north of 30. Stephon Diggs and Parker Washington. Stephon Diggs is due for one of those big games, and the Dallas defense can get beat. Amari Cooper, Zay Flowers, Deebo Samuel. I like those receivers on the other side. I like all three of them. And then the tight end, he's got Freiermuth and Cole Kmet. Freiermuth, he had that big game. He's good for 3 or 4 catches. You just hope he gets in the touchdown. Hope he gets a touchdown to make it worthwhile. Cole Kmet, same with him. He's usually good for 3 or 4 catches. He's had a couple of big blow-up games. Not sure what you can rely on them going up against the Cleveland Browns. And then you have the Steelers defense going up against the Colts. On the other side, you got the Patriots defense going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. Tough game to pick. I think I like what Josh Allen, the position that Josh Allen is in, going up against the Cowboys defense. I like Diggs getting a lot of that. I like the running back scoring big time points this week, especially Montgomery going up against the Denver Broncos, who's successful at running, and Kittle and Okonkwo. Those two tight ends are better than the other two on the other side. Just Okonkwo, he's picked it up. I think he's had more than 50 yards and 5 catches in 2 or 3 of the last games. So I'm taking better team to continue his win streak, continue winning, moving on, and welcome to the playoffs. It's been a while. So with that said, you would have going back to the bracket. So I'm taking Baker King. I'm taking King of the Gridiron over Baker King, and I'm taking the better team over Dark Knight. So 1/8, and then 5 winning over 4. So that would put King of the Gridiron versus the better team in round 2 in week 16. On the other side, no pick between Wolf and G-Man, but I'm taking Rob to win over STL. So it will be Robbed against whoever wins between that other game. So good luck to you guys. Should be fun this week. Again, sorry I couldn't go over Pick'em. Had my screen messed up. Oh, I did. Oh, there's Pick'em. So Pick'em, King of the Gridiron is sitting at the top this week at 133. Action Jackson is at 131. Big Wolf is at 130. Dark Knight's at 129. And rounding out the 5th is STL, 4-time champion, 127. So you have, I mean, I feel like every week we all are kind of within that, 2 to 3 game split to get to the top. And so King of the Gridiron is holding it down, though. I think he's still holding on steadily to that spot. Action J is right there, and I'm trying to make my way up to the top too. So I think we got it. Let me make sure there was nothing else to cover. That's it. So all business edition tonight. No messing around with it. We will have. Oh yeah, I do have a special guest. Let me make sure my guest is still going to be available. So hold on. Let me make sure my guest is available. I'm going to mute us real quick. All right, so I do have a special guest. My guest, they're fighting, but I'd like to welcome Vice President. Really, I'd like to welcome Vice President and Co-Vice President of the Big Wolf Organization, London and Jackson. London made a okay. Hey, y'all can be fighting on camera. All right, so London made her. Let me see. Let me see. So London made a bracket. So
It says Baker King or Baker.
okay,
Baker.
it's backwards, but you pick who did you pick to win between Baker King and King of the Gridiron?
Red Knight, Dark Knight.
Well, you picked Dark Knight to be the better team.
Mm-hmm.
Who'd you pick between Wolf and G-Men? No, on here you got Wolf.
No, Wolf.
And then you pick Rob, or you pick STL over Rob. Is that what your paper shows on here?
Mm-hmm.
And then who was supposed to win between King of the Gridiron and Baker King?
Baker King.
Oh, you were picking Baker King. So those are the picks from one of the Wolf, someone from the Wolf organization, and then I got someone else who's mad over here, and they're going to be fighting. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video before y'all see a live fight on YouTube. And
no, I want it to be a live fight.
No, it's not.
Look, it's like on wrestling on live TV.
Yeah.
It's like wrestling. Come see the wrestling.
All right, and that will end the Wolfcast for this week.